Hey Guildies, Fletch here. In this video, we're going to talk about a function. And a function is a way that you can separate little bits of code so that it's reusable and sort of easier to maintain. This is what this piece does. This is what this piece does. So let's get into that. All right, so earlier we left off with being able to calculate the difference in the ages. The difference between age of Joe, which we just have set at 100, and the age of Sue, which we're taking in from input from the user. We ask them, what is the age of Sue? And they give us an answer from this console.read line, which we make sure is a number, and we assign it to the age of Sue. Let's go ahead and start by asking for the age of Joe. So we're going to copy this up here. We're going to say, what is the age of Joe? Like that. And then we're going to make sure that we, instead of just directly assigning 100, we're going to do the same exact thing as this. We're going to parse an integer. An integer is a number. We're going to say, give us a value from this console.read line. And then we're going to make sure it's a number. And we'll have the age of Joe as whatever they input. And we'll have the age of Sue as whatever they input. And the answer, which we're going to rename to age difference, is going to be age of Joe minus age of Sue. Then we'll tell the user the difference of ages is that age, and then we'll pause the application from closing. We'll say press any key to continue, and then we'll wait for them to press any key before it closes. Actually, press any key to close would probably make more sense. Okay, so let's run this. What is the age of Joe? We'll say 21. What is the age of Sue? We'll say 20. The difference of ages is 1. So press the any key to close. Perfect. Our program works. So this is starting to get a little bit repetitive. We're doing what is the age of Joe? What is the age of Sue? But it's not too bad right now. Let's say I want to also say, no, I'm not going to also say another thing. Since this is the same exact thing that's happening over and over again, I want to make a function in case, like, what if later on we want to ask the age of Stephanie or the age of Joseph? We already have a Joe. The age of there's so many names out there, and if you say the wrong name, it's not going to end well for you. The age of Jeff. We'll say Jeff. Jeff Dunham is the name that came in my mind. Okay, so we've got this. We want to ask people's ages. So I'm going to make a function, and what that means, it's going to be a separate piece of code that is self-contained, that whenever you run it, it's going to give you, you can give it input, and it'll give you back a value. So I'm going to say a function is an integer, because we're going to be asking for an age, and I'm going to call it get person's name. So this is what a function looks like. It's saying the result of this function is going to be an integer. So whenever I say up here, I want to get a person's age, it's going to be able to be assigned to the age of Joe or assigned to the age of Sue, because those are integer variables. And I'll be able to use this function to assign it to them, as you'll see in a moment. So get a person's name. I didn't even want that. Get a person's age. And so I'm going to say, I want to know what the person's name is for the age that I'm getting. So I'm going to say string, which is what these are with the quotes around it. I'm going to say, first give me their name. So string name. Now I'll be able to copy this exact thing, and we'll be able to do it over and over again. So I'm going to say console.writeLine, what is the age of? So what I'm doing here is concatenation, this plus sign, I'm not adding, I'm concatenating. Concatenating this string, and I make sure there's a space at the end of this, plus the name, plus question mark. So this will ask them, what is the age of whatever name that I tell it to do this for. Age of person. And then I'm going to assign that int age of person, and I'm going to call that same exact functionality I did before, where I wait for the user to input something, and I'm going to make sure that it becomes an integer. I'll explain that again, like I said, in a future video, and maybe even this video. And so that's going to be assigned to age of person. Now, the reason this is red is because I'm promising you, this is what we call a contract. I'm promising whoever's using this that I'm going to give them an integer. I say, get person's age, tell me their name, and I will give you an integer. So far, I'm getting an integer in my code that I'm running. I'm getting an integer, but I'm not returning them an integer. So I need to end this with return age of person. So I'm getting the age of person. Now I'm returning the age of person out of this function. Now, this looks like at first that when this program runs, it's going to run this, then this, then this, then this, all the way down, and then it's going to run this. But it's not going to run a function unless you tell it run that function. When you see a function like this, it won't run it unless you say run it. So in some languages, you can do, like JavaScript, you can do this at the end and it'll run it. But we're not talking about JavaScript right now. This is saying I'm defining a function. It will return an integer. It's called get person's age by name. And this is what I need. I need you to give me a name to get the person's age. Give me a name. And then I will figure out their name by asking the user. I'll figure out their name and I will give you back their age. I keep saying that wrong. I know I keep saying that wrong. I'll figure out their age and I will give that age back to you. So what we're going to do up here, instead of asking manually every single time, I'm going to say the age of Joe is get person's age for someone named Joe. And I'm going to say the same thing for the age of Sue. I'm going to say get person's age for Sue. So now I'll have the age of Joe and the age of Sue. So let's see how this looks when you run this code. Well, first let's run it and see the result here. What's the age of Joe? 50. What's the age of Sue? 25. So, or 15, the difference is 35. Perfect. Okay, so the code works exactly like it did before, except it's a little bit easier to read. Instead of having all of this copy pasted over and over and over again, we now just have it say get person's age for Joe, get person's age for Sue. If we want another one, get person's age for Fred. It's a lot simpler and a lot cleaner than having this code over and over and over. So let's see what that looks like whenever we debug the code. So I'm running it, the window's open. If I hit, should be able to do both these at the same time instead of constantly dragging it. So if I hit F10, F10 will mean do the current line, so step to the next line. You can see it says, what is the age of Joe? I'm going to say 50. So what just happened? Get person's age. Here I'm at get person's age for age of Sue. So I'm going to wait for that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit F11 to see exactly what's happening here. Oh, it skipped all this. It temporarily said, okay, hold on, before we continue, I know that we're here right now, but let's go into, it's called stepping into, let's go into this function down here and finish that out first. Let's go finish this function, and then we'll come back and we'll assign whatever the result of this function is. We'll assign that to the age of Sue, and then we'll continue on. So let's just take a break, step into this other code, and then we'll continue on. You can actually see that in a call stack where you can see that up here, this stack, this part of the stack, this part of the code is waiting. It's saying, okay, we're going to wait here until the next deep level that is being worked on is finished. And that next deep level is inside of this function right here, where it does, just like we expect before, what is the age of Sue? Put my cursor over name and it says Sue. What is the age of Sue? So I'll write that. I've written that to the screen. What is the age of Sue? And then I will ask them for their age. I'll ask this console for an input. So I'm going to say the age of Sue is 49. There it goes. It finished that. It got 49. And it's going to return 49. So I'm going to hit F10. Okay, I've finished the return. This is the exit of the method. Here it is. It hasn't yet been assigned. See, I've finished the method, but it has not yet finished this part where it's assigning it into the age of Sue. I'll hit F10 again. All right, the age of Sue now has the number 49 in it. That's what a function is doing. It says we can make reusable code, also so that we can reason about little bits of things that we want to be repeatable, also that it's its own thing. Getting the age of someone is different than having to tell them to press any key to close. Those are completely different ideas. So we've separated out this function to do that. And then if we hit continue, it just does the rest of it. It does this, this, then this. So that's what a function is. A function is a way to separate out code to make something reusable. And now that I've described that, I'm going to make this a function. I'll discuss a class in a different video. And I'm going to get rid of this comment up here. Okay, so now we have I like the way it did that. Sometimes code has a lot of redundant words or words that you'll learn the meaning of. So I'm just getting rid and cleaning up some of that stuff. Okay, so we have a function. I'll describe static in a different video also. This function is called, it's in our program. This function is called main. And what that means is that when I start the program, this is what's going to start running. It's going to say, we're going to start with here, and we're going to go to here, we're going to go to here, we're going to go through this main function. If we have another function call, then pause right there and go into that function. And then when that's finished, come back here and finish what you're doing and continue on. The main function is a function that your program actually gets called. Almost every programming language has this, where this is the entry point to your application. This is the thing that gets called. What we saw earlier, when we didn't have any of that, and it was just like this, what that is that this IDE, this programming language, allows you to say, if you don't purposely say this is the main function, then if this is in your main file or the only file that has the situation like this, we're going to assume this is what you mean. So everything's a function. This is the main function. I can hit a breakpoint right here. This is the very first thing that gets hit in this program. This is my program. This is a class called program. This isn't literally a program, but I'll explain class later. This is a program. So this is the very first thing we're going to do. Oh, and that thing goes into another deeper level called get person's age. What is the age of Joe? 80. Okay. And then we'll go to the next line. And what is this? Oh, this one goes into the function again. Okay, we'll do this. What is the age of Sue? 60. Okay, assign to Sue. Get the age difference. The difference of ages is age difference. The difference of ages is 20. Okay. So a function is just a way to reason about how your code flows, how to separate different ideas and responsibilities of your code, and to make code reusable. This is reusable right here. So that's what a function is. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about a way to ask maybe for hundreds of names without having to do hundreds of times like this, because that again would be way too much. There's a much easier way to ask multiple times over and over for the same information without having to get too crazy. All right, if you like this video, like and subscribe. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and see you next time.